I think I know this one. This one's something about a boat.
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Which one?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Cut all that shit out.
Buyer's remorse.
Welcome to Buyer's Remorse. I'm Darren.
I'm Justin.
On Buyer's Remorse, we make each other play games that have been sitting in our libraries unloved and unwanted. Well, not unwanted, because we picked them up at some point, but...
We thought we wanted them.
Yeah, but did we really? What's this one?
This one is Project Mercury.
I know this game. Oh, I own this.
Do you own this one?
Yeah. Okay, so guinea pig time. How was it?
Let's talk about the game itself first. So, developed and published by Raxasoft Games. At base, it's only $1. This is another time where Steam reviews, I don't know what they're doing with the numbers. It tells me there are 5 reviews, but I can look down and see that there are more than 5 reviews. In fact, at the bottom it said, browse all 410 reviews. Well, that's clearly more than 5.
I could be speaking out of line. Is this not like if you buy it on Steam, you get to leave a review that counts? Whereas if you buy it on a bundle, like if you get a key for it, that's why on the right side, it's usually all those thinner ones. Those are all key ones. Whereas the big ones that get the most prominence are like the ones that were actually bought on Steam.
I could see that, but...
Only 5?
Yeah, only 5 bought it through Steam. It seems
Or only 5 bothered to review it. I don't know.
Well, that's possible, but if there are 410 reviews, I don't know.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, if you
understand
actually know
this.
Looking at the 11 I could see. So this is the problem. I can see 11.
But it only says 5.
It only says 5.
Yeah.
I know we had the theory before that maybe it's a language thing, that maybe some are in a different language, but I looked at them. They were in English. 9 were bad and 2 were good. Oof. So would we say that that is a negatively reviewed game?
Sounds like it.
Okay. It's only 20 megabytes, so it's low on memory.
Oh yeah, maybe I don't own this game actually. Maybe I own another Mercury game.
Their description: make your way on foot, on a hoverbike, up skyscrapers, and down bottomless pits as you exterminate a threat of unknown origin.
All on something that has less bytes than a Word document.
Yes.
Okay. Right, sell me then. Sell me on this.
Well, I'm going to try. I will say at first, I couldn't get the controller to work.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what was going on there. So when I started the game, I was starting keyboard and mouse, which is not my ideal. Especially for a game like this. This is a platform game. And platforming with a keyboard just feels awkward. At the beginning of each level, it says, engage! Exclamation mark.
Okay, John Luke.
You're fighting what I at first thought were floating croissants, but I think they're more likely big bugs or something sea related, because there are other creatures later that are clearly prawns.
Oh, I thought you meant C as in the letter C, because it was like a croissant, so that's a C shape. Okay.
No,
like water,
C is
like
water, because there are
right?
these characters that have fish heads. There are other things. So I think what they might be is small rays, like small manta rays.
Is it a pixel game then, yeah?
Yeah, I would say so,
okay, so...
Especially the backgrounds. The backgrounds are very pixel art.
Okay.
They've made the art very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the character animations. They're not NES, 8-bit. They would probably be much more... I'm trying to see what range it would be. Super Nintendo era, perhaps? Maybe a bit beyond.
Into the 16-bit era?
Yeah. But a very simple version of it. I would say that because the characters and the enemies look better, but the background is very simplified.
Right.
Each level has a very simple set of colors as well, usually 3 to 4 colors max, not including the characters. Most of the enemies are orange. You are you basically look like the pink Power Ranger. Everything about you is pink, including your gun. With the keyboard mapping, the way they've set it up is Z is to jump, X is to aim, and C is to shoot.
Okay.
The reason you need to aim is the fact that it's not even really aim. What they should say is stop moving. So it stops you from moving because you're using the same arrow keys for aiming your gun
As you are for moving.
as you are for moving.
Oh.
So by holding this button down, you can actually just stand in one place rather than trying to aim over and shoot and falling off into a pit.
Is it a frantic platformer where you have to be quick at this? Because this sounds like a nightmare already.
Parts of it. It's not as bad as Elf that you played before.
Okay. Where it's just like murder coming at you from all angles.
It's not going to be like that, but it is very much a side scroller.
Okay.
And some of the things are very tricky. There's one jump that they keep putting in a little platform that's just a little square that's really hard to get onto. And with the keyboard, I was just so frustrated. Even later when I got the controller working, I was still quite a bit frustrated with it.
Oh, so you fixed it?
Yeah, I don't know what I did, but because I kept missing this jump, I kept either falling just short of it, or I would land on it and drift off it, or jump over it. It's just so tiny. If you just made it the same as all the other platforms you've got, this would be fine. But I think they wanted this to be a tricky part. And you're going to see it more than one time, so beware of that. The problem was for a long time, I couldn't figure out on the controller, though, how to do this aiming without moving. So at times you would be looking down, for example, and there's one of these floating croissants in your way. And if you jump on an enemy, you take damage, but you also get knocked back. So a lot of times you're jumping over a gap, you will land on the enemy, and this is not like Super Mario Brothers where you kill them. They are unaffected by you jumping on them.
Yeah.
They will knock you back and you will die because you'll fall into the pit. So you need, in many instances, at least it seemed to me, you need to be able to aim down and shoot so that you can make the jump onto that platform.
Okay.
So what I did for a long time is anytime I had that situation, I would switch over to keyboard, get rid of that enemy, and then go back to my controller so that I could have better platforming skills.
Right.
I did eventually, I think about halfway through, just get so frustrated that I took a few minutes to go in and find the mapping.
Oh, okay.
And the mapping, I don't know the symbols that they're using. It's all this, the buttons are B5 and B6 and B7, and I don't know what that means, but it actually wasn't that hard to change once I tried it. It's one of those situations where you highlight that button in the controller mapping part of the menu, and then hold the button you want it to be, and then it's done.
Okay, fair enough.
So even though it was a little tricky to figure out, once it was done, and it seemed to remember it from then on. So I was going to complain about that a lot when I first started playing, but once I got that figured out, it's like, okay, it's a small complaint because you can fix it.
Yeah.
So now the game became much easier, much better. But it is very challenging. And the format of the levels seems to be you get halfway through the level, and there's your checkpoint. And so with your other whatever lives you have left, because I think you start with 3 lives. So if you can get there in your first life and you die somewhere, you have 2 more to get to the end. But when you get to the end, there's always a boss. And there's no checkpoint before the boss.
Oh dear.
So you have to get through the whole second half and fight the boss with whatever health you have left.
Sounds like something that I would throw out the window. Yep.
I think at some point. It is, I think in the first level where you get the hoverbike, you make it through the first half. You finally get, well, for me it took forever, but you get through the first half, you get to the checkpoint, and you get on a hoverbike. And it looks kind of cool. Again, pink. Everything about you is pink. And now you have to use the hoverbike to jump over stuff, shoot stuff. It is very tricky because sometimes you'll have creatures come in from behind you. This is not, I think, the type of game you jump in and you beat it the first time. This is the type of game you go in and you memorize the pattern and you learn how to do it. It is a skill. This is a game for speedrunners.
Kind of like old school Nintendo Contra stuff.
It is, and that's, well, I wouldn't go Contra. Think simpler. But that is the...
But that style of
yeah,
like
it's 2D.
muscle
you're
memory
running through,
almost.
Yeah, for that it would definitely be.
Yeah.
The enemies, like I said, they look weird because they're sea creatures. So I think the one that had fish heads, they walk around on tripods. They look a bit like sligs, but with their... instead of a slug, it's a fish head on top.
Fair enough.
And giant, what look like cockroaches that will leap out, and you usually don't have time to actually shoot them. You just have to jump out of their way, or they'll knock you off into the pit, and then you die instantly. That kind of stuff would probably make you rage quit.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's fair in the fact that it's the same every time. There's no randomness to it.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanics, the jumping, just that little platform, if they got rid of those little platforms, if they made those normal size, this would be no problem at all.
Right.
The platforming isn't really a problem. The creatures, the enemies that you're going through, especially on the hoverbike, they have a pattern. You can learn how it works. The fish egg characters, when they're across the top of the screen, every few will have this orb that falls down. That's a little tricky. I didn't quite get the hang of exactly how that worked. Sometimes I could avoid it. Sometimes I seem to run right into it. The croissant manta ray things, there are some that will go up and down, and it's like every other one. So you want to get, under the one as it's up, right, and then get to the next one just as it's going up. The problem with the hoverbike is you're always going forward. So you have a time thing. You can't just stop, wait for something to move, and then go.
Is this the kind of situation where you're always moving, but you can kind of zoom a bit faster or press back to slow yourself down, but you're still moving?
You don't change the speed, but you can change where you are on the screen. So yes, so you can push ahead to the right side of the screen.
Like an R-type kind of thing. You move your ship around in that space, but you're always moving in one direction.
Yes.
Right, okay.
You can move backwards, but only as far as what you can see on the screen.
Yeah.
And so that's why things like the ones that pop out, though, from behind you, you don't want to be all the way in the back because one of those might pop out and get you.
Yeah.
But again, the pattern is there. So once you know that they're going to come from behind you, it's no longer a surprise. But you wouldn't probably be able to do it the first time. At least I certainly couldn't. The boss fights were really challenging. I had a lot of difficulty with those, but I always do.
Did you beat them, though?
Well, I beat the first one.
Okay.
And this is a really interesting thing what they've done with this game is you have to beat the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you everything in the beginning as far as jumping, aiming. There are some platforms that are too high to jump to, but you can climb up them. You don't even really have to do anything. There's no button to hit. You just go up to the wall and you just slide up it. So this is no kind of Dead East Batman bouncing back and forth from wall to wall. You just climb up it. So that's fine. There's no challenge. And I don't know, the part about the bottomless pits, I don't know if there's hidden things down there. There are some glowing circle and diamond things you sometimes see when you kill one of the enemies. There's also supposed to be a button for switching weapons. As far as I know, I never found another weapon. I never seem to run out of energy with my weapon, so I don't know what those are for. Maybe those are for
power-up guns or something like that, yeah?
Yeah, maybe if you get enough of them, you get a different weapon, or maybe those are the energy for the special guns, but I don't think I ever found one. The interesting thing, though, you beat that first level, and you've done the walking kind and the hover bike time, and they'll introduce little things in the next section, but overall, they've shown you the main stuff of what you need to do, and then you get 4 levels to choose from.
Okay.
So now, instead of going in a linear fashion, I could try all the 4 different levels.
Oh.
And so I didn't finish any of the others because I wasn't forced to stick with any one of them. So I wanted to see in the hour what these other 4 look like. I was planning to get through, but I was not good enough to beat the boss in the first one or the second one.
Or the third one.
Or the third one. Or the fourth one. I made it to a number of the bosses, but I was not able to beat them.
Okay. So how long did it take you to beat the first level then?
Took me a long time, but a lot of that was the button mapping was weird, and getting to the boss, like I said, the thing is when you get through the first half, then you can start from the second half, but I think, if I remember correctly, once you die, you have to start over again. So you get really good at that first half, and then you start the second half, but that's the thing, this game basically reminded me of how terrible I used to be at video games when I was a kid, and it's because it's this kind of game. I'm just not good at this kind of game. you give me a boss fight, it's like, oh, well, I'm definitely going to die here.
Yeah.
Especially since I've only got 2 bars of life left after having been bumped into by the fish-headed tripods, or I accidentally mistimed the floating croissant thing. I'm just not good at this kind of game.
Yeah.
There are, in the other sections, there's a green level where it's basically more of a walking level. I struggled a lot with that one. I don't even think I made it to the boss on that one. There's another level that's a walking level that's yellow. This is the one where I finally learned to remap the aim key so I could just use a controller solely. There's introduced in here a scorpion that shoots at you from its tail, and a trilobite looking thing. This is the one that's actually on the tripod. The fish head one actually has legs. They almost look like lady legs that are walking. But the trilobite thing is the one that has the legs. And yeah, it's just really challenging to beat for some reason. There was one, I don't remember which color it was, but there was one level where I seemed to have to kill them and you were walled off and you couldn't move until you killed like 3 of them. And that was a bit of a challenge, shooting and jumping around.
Right.
Oh, no, this is not a boss fight. It's like a mini boss fight. There was a purplish city one, which is more running and shooting with some tricky jumps. The one I probably spent the most time on was another hoverbike level. Just because I like the hoverbike level, I seem to get a feel for that. You're dealing with mostly the same enemies. And that one is hoverbike all the way through.
Right.
So you get to hoverbike right at the beginning and then all the way to the end. And the boss for that one was, I think it was the one where there's a giant prawn with 8 prawns that circle around it, smaller ones. And so, of course, you have to destroy all the small ones so that you can actually shoot the big one. Yeah. But I never got to the end of that one. So no, I didn't get to any of the others. I did see, I think for my save file, that I'm 10% complete. So my guess would be, since I beat 1 level, that there are 10 levels total. Right. So after this 4, there's probably another 4 and then a super hard boss level is what my guess would be. The music is good. It sounds very techno-synth. It fits what's going on here. It has a huge nostalgia feel for the old style of games. If this game had come out in that era, it would have been a good game.
I mean, it sounds, the way you've described it, I mean, it might have some problems, but it sounds all right. So what were the negative reviews and ragging on it about then? I'm
not really sure. Like I said, there weren't many. So there were like 9 bad ones.
Right.
I think...
Just price, maybe?
It's only $1.
Oh, I thought you said this was $10. Right. So
no, this is only $1. So, I mean, if people are complaining about this one being $1, I don't know. Perhaps there are things later in the game. Mm. There could also be...
Oh, maybe it's too hard?
The fact that it's too hard. Mm. I could certainly see people getting angry at not being able to beat a level.
Right.
Or having to restart from the beginning every time. Mm-hmm. It is possible that people playing this are not the people who played the old ones that were even harder and even longer levels and even more ridiculous and spent 3 hours trying to get through it. Honestly, if the game continues as it is, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's not my style of game.
Right.
It was a nice kick in the pants to remember why this is not my style of game, but it's not bad. I would recommend this to anyone who likes difficult platforming, who likes this kind of old style side scroller. It's $1 to play a new game like this, many of which they tried to do something more. This is so simple. This is I think once you can do this well, you'd be able to speed this really, really fast. You could speedrun this really fast. And I think that would appeal to a lot of people, just not me. I might continue to play occasionally. It's only 20 megabytes, so I can leave it on my computer easily. I might occasionally pick it up just when I don't want to think and I want to just run through a level. But I don't think this is the type of game that I'm anxious to beat. There's no real story to it.
Right.
And that also feels very old school, where the story would have been in the instruction manual, not really in the game itself.
The president's been captured by ninjas.
Yeah, in this case, I think these are all alien creatures that have come down, or maybe they've come up from the sea. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I think that it's done pretty well. And with a base of $1, they know what they're selling, and I can't really fault them at that. So unless there are mechanical glitches or bugs or crashes that happen late game. I'm not sure. I think from what I remember is a lot of people refunded it and then reviewed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you only play it for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, you probably didn't get to the end, you didn't see what they were doing with it, and I think you're being a bit harsh on it, if that's the case.
Right.
If that's the case.
Right. So, what's the tags then?
I would go with pixel art, primarily because of the background, platforming, and shooting. And that's
simple.
Yeah.
And so, buyer's confirmation or remorse for this one?
I think it's definite confirmation.
All right.
Buyer's confirmation.
Ding.
Today we are going to listen to Darren talk about a game. What game is it?
The Way of Life.
Now, I picked The Way of Life
Mm-hmm.
because I had played this years ago, I think when I first got on Steam, because it was free. It was...
What it does is the game is basically, it's like a weird life chronicle simulator thing where you go in, there's a robot that is like, I'm the curator, or I don't know what his title is, but I'm the something, and I'm going to take you through the 3 stages of life. I've got more notes for this than anything we've ever done, man. I took notes on everything. I'm just going to take you through my whole hour, right?
All this and more in the next episode of Buyer's Remorse.